Hi, welcome back. We haven't filmed in a while, and we haven't filmed on just you and me in a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. We came out with one, just us, but we didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't recently record it. So.
Yeah, it was probably a year. No, it was a year since we came out. Since we actually sat down and did that last one that we released.
That's crazy.
So it's been a long time. Eventually, I feel like we should talk about how we got here and all that, but not yet.
We sort of did with Travis.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But we were super vague because we hadn't moved yet.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually we'll do one where we're talking about, like, you know, the move and how all that happened, what we're doing right now, and the craziness with what we feel like we're assigned to right now. But figured we would do another one, you and me, just a conversation kind of based off of questions we've been asked recently, and just like, I don't know, I feel like really good reflective questions. I feel like there are a lot of like students asking us questions, which have been like really good thought-provoking questions. So I figured we would just ask some. Yeah. But we have some guests coming on soon, which will be really fun. Mm-hmm. Another one of my mentors, really awesome person. So we have some cool people lined up. But in the meantime, you're pretty cool. So we can have some conversations. First off, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Today was a great day. Got to work out with my friend Josh. Went to Bethel University's gym, which is cool. Not as great as Liberty's gym.
We are just such Liberty fans.
Yeah,
like
we
really it was life-changing for us. Which I feel like we could even just have a whole talk about. Maybe we'll bring on a professor.
That would be really cool.
Or two.
Oh, we should.
I have a couple in mind.
We could do the FaceTime one.
Yeah. So we just decided to do a conversation on how like our relationship dynamic changed in dating to marriage, because, you know, we haven't been married that long, but we also are married and we know what that transition has been like for us. And I'd love to talk about it. I'd love to talk about things that like don't happen in dating that happen in marriage, and happen in dating that don't happen in marriage. So So I want to start with one of the questions was, well, I guess these kind of lead into one another. But someone asked a question about spiritual intimacy in and out of relationships. And I remember you had said that there was a guy going around kind of preaching like no spiritual intimacy before you're married. You know, that's so bad. And you kind of had a different take on it. And so I'm curious, the biggest differences from when we were dating, or even when you were dating before in other relationships, to now. Right.
Well,
featuring our cookie butter ice lattes.
Yep. Mine's right there. I think the word spiritual intimacy, I think, can just have a lot of unnecessary weight sometimes, where it's like, okay, what are we really talking about with spiritual intimacy? And I think it's important to ask that question because like it's such a vague term. Like what does that really mean? Spiritual intimacy, you know, I think you need to define what it is that is spiritual intimacy, and what you shouldn't do, and what boundaries to make in that regard. I don't think there's a lot, you know what I'm saying? And that's just my take, because like as a dating couple, I think like you guys should most certainly be praying together, which is like
one of the things that's like debated. You know?
Yeah.
People often are like, what do we do with that? And it's...
Yeah, I don't think that should be... I really don't even think it should be debated. I think if two believers are together, why wouldn't you be praying? I mean, you'd be praying with your friends.
Right.
You'd be praying with like your parents.
Right.
You'd be praying with your spiritual mentors. You'd be praying with your pastors. Why wouldn't you pray with your partner? You know?
Someone you're like you're like getting to know, to see if you want to be in a covenant with them. And
you're not in a covenant with your friends. You fast with your friends. You pray with your friends. Why would you not do that with your significant other, or dating partner rather. So like I think there's that.
Well, and to add on to that, when people are talking about that, people are like, oh yeah, like we shouldn't pray together because then it unlocks this like spiritual intimacy that we shouldn't enter into. And I'm like, okay, well, are you praying in like a room with like darkly lit, like or dimly lit? Are you praying in a room that's like dimly lit, like with the door closed? You know what I mean? I'm kind of like, what are you allowing to happen before or after, to make it more intimate than it should be? And what are you praying about? Like, are you praying about like your future, like future things that are going to happen in marriage that, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, okay. So I guess maybe there is a bucket for people that are like that, which is strange to me. But yeah, maybe, well, here's the thing. Maybe like for Christian girls and Christian guys, someone who prays is like really attractive to them. So maybe that's what they're like referring to. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, so that's funny.
Yeah.
But what I think really matters is things that are reserved for the container of marriage, which obviously the sex is the blaring obvious one, right? So like sex is reserved for marriage. I think there's another thing though, which maybe might not catch your attention first, but for the guys, I don't think you have the right, I guess it's a strong word, but I don't think you have the right to lead.
The place to.
Yeah, I don't think you have the right to lead your girlfriend like you would lead her as if she was your wife. And I think that's really important. I think practically in day-to-day decisions, that looks like you shouldn't really be deciding what church she goes to. You shouldn't be like forcing her to do things in her walk with God that she's not ready yet or not there yet. Not to say you would be forcing in marriage, right? Like forcing is bad, not good. Don't want to force. But there's like a calling up that as men we should be doing to our families. I think to our wives, and then eventually to our children. We don't have kids yet, but I can imagine that part of my job as the spiritual leader of our home and as a priest of our home is to call them up, right? So I don't think you have that place in that girl's life yet if you're just dating. And I think that's probably the biggest boundary. I think that for guys, that is like the biggest thing. Like you can't lead her like you lead a wife. And because then what happens is I think there's where that term spiritual intimacy kind of is a qualifying term, because it's like she now sees you as like the spiritual leader of her life when that shouldn't be the case yet, because you guys haven't entered into a covenant, which is what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like with that, girls look for like ways a guy is leading, like in dating really quickly. Like the amount of conversations where I'm like, I don't know, I don't really think he's like leading me, and I haven't really seen that. And I'm kind of like, what are you looking for? And a lot of the times it'll be like, well, he's not initiating, like he's not asking me what I'm reading in my Bible every day. And he's not, asking me to come to these like worship nights and, and stuff like that. And I don't feel like that's a way that you can judge spiritual leadership. I feel like, especially in dating, I feel like the way that I saw that quality in you, like, or the way that you did so in dating was just example.
Right.
Like I was encouraged. I learned from you just by example. I always talk about this one moment when we were having a rehearsal, and me and this one dude who was known for gossiping, you know what I mean? He was like known for gossiping, and we just were. And Christian just looked really uncomfortable. And I remember from that day on, I was just much more mindful of it. That was leadership. and it wasn't like blatant too, you know?
Right.
And it was also just the way that the decisions you made were based off of the Lord and not at all me at that point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because eventually you have to like factor in your wife in decision making and stuff like that. But I think a lot of your example of leadership in that time when we were dating was the way that your decisions were solely between you and the Holy Spirit. You know,
Right.
like that was largely a way that you led in dating. It wasn't, you definitely didn't tell me what church to go to at all. You definitely never asked me what I was reading in my Bible ever once. You definitely didn't like do that stuff. You know, it was the way that you lived your life.
Right. Just like if like other believers in your life, the way you learned from them, you also learned from me, because we were just dating. And I think that's what like is sort of the underlying thing that's happening. In the Bible, we have three different types of relationships that we can look at. There's the relationship between believer and believer. There's a relationship between the believer and non-believer, and the relationship between spouses, right? And we don't really get much else, you know, like in the New Testament writings and stuff like that. Those are those three, and I think for a reason, because the covenant is so pivotal and so essential to the relationship. So like dating is great, and like you should definitely date. And I'm not saying don't date, because you know there's people out there with courtship and they don't believe in dating. Well, that's not what I'm saying at all. Not at all what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that if you want a completely biblical approach and you want to see what the Bible's saying, there's only room for these three types of relationships, and you shouldn't cross boundaries or shouldn't expect something from your girlfriend or from your boyfriend, or low-key even your fiance, that you would expect from a husband or from a wife quite yet. Also, on that same like coin, you should be looking for these qualities, and you should be like, you should be observing, I think, from a distance. You should be observing what Jesus called the fruit. And Jesus said, you know, you can judge a tree by its fruit. Jesus said that was plenty. You don't need to like dive deeper and act like husband and wife to really get to know each other. Yeah. I think you can really get to know each other by just observing your fruit. Observe the fruit of their life and see if you're learning. See if you can follow that man. See if you could lead that woman. And like those are the things that you should be looking for, not actually like diving in and doing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, yeah, that's really good. Going off of that, I feel like sometimes in the Christian dating culture, you can kind of put on a facade a little bit. You can kind of like put on a little bit of a show. And like if this guy is posting like videos of him talking about the Bible and what you should and shouldn't do, and is asking like, you know, like asking to pray in like just in like almost like I guess forced moments, and asking like, hey, let's, you know, you're out like hanging out doing something completely different. It's like, hey, let's read our Bible right now, you know, like there's things like that, and girls deem that leadership.
Yeah.
And I always say like steer clear of that, because like I don't know, I'm not saying steer clear of it, I guess, but don't consider that to be what like is the mark of a leader.
Are you kind of referring to what we call church chads? Have you heard of this?
Yes, I am referring to church chads.
Yeah. So like,
well,
I guess like girls, watch out for the church chads, you know. Well, like, what were you gonna say?
People will say like, oh, you know, like he doesn't ask me like what I'm learning in the Bible, and doesn't do the church chad things. And I'm like, that's not the mark of a leader. Like, like leaders lead by example, and they lead by like, you know, leaders wash people's feet. Like leaders are servants, you know? Right. Yeah. Leaders wash people's feet. Leaders are servants. And so I'm like, when I was looking for him, I was looking for like, are you like a servant? Like, what is your what is your humility like? I was, exactly what you said, looking for the fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Like your self-control. Like that, one of the biggest things for me, watching him was his self-control, was watching those characteristics, not necessarily what he wanted to do with me in the name of spiritual disciplines. That wasn't what I was looking for. I was looking for fear of the Lord in you. And I remember, so on the topic of like boundaries, I know people who would be like, yeah, he said that he's cool with us going as far as like I wanted to go. And, like that's respectful. And like we're just, we decided that this is going to be our line. And like, we decided that, we're at 9:00, we're going to do this. And then we're like, or he'll say, yeah, like things like that. Like they'll judge like his self-control and his spiritual maturity that way. And my response to those friends, and those girls in high school that I would be like mentoring, like students and stuff, my response to them would be, my concern is his fear of the Lord, not necessarily the execution. Cause you're probably going to get it wrong. You're probably going to mess up. You're probably not going to do the whole purity thing perfectly.
Right.
But when their biggest concern, when a guy's biggest concern is whether or not you're going to be disappointed in them, or you're going to be upset with them, or like they're going to catch a case or something, if that's their biggest concern, then they don't fear God.
Right. I think this is also speaking into, I don't want to say an issue, but a thing that a pastor that we watch regularly noticed, where there's like this, we as church and Christian communities, we highly respect type A individuals and people who are like, oh, we're going to do this. Yes. Right. And it's all about being disciplined. And certainly, Christ calls us to be disciplined, have self-control, fruits of the Spirit, all that. But just because someone has the most impeccable schedule and is completely on top of reading their Bible, and completely like just the most type A, amazing, reliable in terms of scheduling and,
they journal and
like all the things,
Yeah.
Just because that guy is like that, which I would consider all those little Bible studies and all those little things that maybe some women will perceive as like leadership. Like it doesn't mean that they even really have a genuine relationship with God. This pastor that we were listening to said that he was thinking in his head of like 3 of like 5 major mentors in his life that were pastors that had fallen in like severe moral failures of some kind,
or like and then like left the faith.
Left the faith, like completely.
Major mentors of his.
Tragic stories. And he was thinking, and this is what he told the congregation, he was like, like when I truly think about those people, those 3 people that I had in my life, I always highly respected them because they were so disciplined. But when I really thought about it, they didn't really give me solid examples of who Christ was. They were just incredibly disciplined. And they were just the most type A, super on top of things. Their bed was always made, So discipline, like that type of person, type A person, is not the goal. Actually, believe it or not, the goal is someone who looks like Christ.
I think you hit it home, because I was sorting all of these thoughts out when we were dating, because my last relationship was just the most like ungodly thing ever. And so I was looking for all the church chat stuff. We shouldn't, the spiritual disciplines, which are good. I'm like that. I am the journaler. Right. I am the I love to fast. I love to journal. I love all we love the disciplines.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the only thing that defines somebody who's really submitted to Christ. And so anyways, I was sorting this stuff out in my head, and people around me were dating people too. And at the same time as I was dating other people were dating these guys and, you know, talking to me about like, you know, the Bible studies and the worship nights and the young adults nights and the things like that. And I realized you didn't really, like, that wasn't really a huge part of our relationship. Like, you weren't inviting me to young adults nights ever. You weren't asking me what I learned in the Word today. You weren't
on a daily basis. No.
I mean, we would do little Bible studies.
Yeah.
And like, that was fun. That was because that was me. I like said that I wanted to do that and that was fun, but you weren't doing that stuff. Like, we weren't like praying before our dates. You know what I mean? Like, oh, before we go on this date, let's pray. You know, like, we weren't doing that, but I did tell people that you were like such an example of Christ to me.
Right.
And you were such an example of being led by the Spirit to me. And you were what?
Thanks.
And you were such an example of purity too, because like it's so awesome to say we low key like nailed the purity thing we were dating.
Yeah. It feels so great to do it right.
It was like, and I mean, I definitely didn't before. You didn't really either.
No.
And so we knew we wanted to do that right. And because we both had such a clear goal in mind, we were able to do it. But he was a major like leader in that. Not that I didn't want to, but I never worried about you. That's the best way I explained it to my friends. I said I never, ever had to worry about you.
Right.
Worry about what you would decide to do one day or whatever. And that was such an example of leadership, you know. Mm-hmm. It's not like we prayed before we went to go like watch a movie and, you know, but you just set that example.
Right. I mean, and also like we're hopefully you guys feel the room that we're giving, that if that's where your relationship with your boyfriend or girlfriend is at, where you guys are praying before, and this is like you know, like you guys are doing Bible studies together all the time, and that's amazing.
That is awesome.
Like that's great. You know, I like keep doing that. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not going to label that as spiritual intimacy, and like say like don't do that too much. You know, no. It's I really think it comes down to acting like husband and wives. You guys shouldn't be acting like husband and wives, and I think you should ask. I think that's a healthy question to ask yourselves as a dating couple. Am I trying to be this girl's husband right now? And
that stuff, when it's done, is not always insincere, like how a lot of times it can be, or, and it's not that is, that doesn't at all display like spiritual leadership, because I mean, I would say we did weekly times where like I would, like a lot of times because we were still in college, like I would be reading the Word, he'd come join and we'd read together.
Yeah.
And we would pray pretty frequently, but like not these long periods of time or anything.
Right.
But we were constantly praying separately for a relationship, like nonstop.
Yeah.
Like that's where I really truly developed a legitimate prayer life, was about this. Because I was like, Lord, like if this is not supposed to happen, if I'm really supposed to go marry him, you need to tell me. And he did. You know what I mean? So like definitely keep that in there. That's a great foundation, because I mean, those are things that are a part of our marriage now. Like it's not that our relationship was void of those things. That we practiced a lot of disciplines. We were constantly leading worship together. Mm-hmm. We were always going to church, always. We would do Bible studies. We would pray. We would fast.
Yeah.
But that is not, as a girl, what I looked at as qualifications for a spouse, as the primary qualifications.
Right. And this is definitely a conversation for people who are a little further along in their faith, because you'll start to realize that I think there's unfortunately a lot of great Christian guys that aren't ready to lead yet. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe if you're new in your faith, you'll just like see the first guy that has a Bible and you're like, boom, you know, like this is it.
Found him.
You know, and same reverse for the guys too. You know, like you see a girl who's just kind and
necklace.
Yeah. And treats you with kindness and respect. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, That's it.
Yeah. So like these things that are disciplines, they're really awesome disciplines, but they're not the end all be all. They are good they are, I would say they're fruit of a guy like, you know, worthy of being a leader. They're fruit, but they're not I don't think they're the determining factors. What you shouldn't weigh him based off of those things. Because like I said, those weren't the things that made me realize that he was going to be a good leader. They were in his own life. The Holy Spirit was more important than what anyone else said to him at any point in time. He was incredibly committed to the local church. Even if he was tired, he was going to go to church. He was going to serve at a church. I saw that he didn't reach for higher positions all the time in like music and things like that if God didn't call you to do it. Those were all things that I was like, oh, okay. So that represents humility. That represents his value for being in the church. That represents an intimate relationship with the Spirit. That all of those things were things that were things I could put more trust in someone who was going to lead me than someone who would ask me what I learned that day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the point of dating, right? Is to get to know the person. That's why you're dating. You're dating just to see them, and you're observing. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
What were you looking for?
Man. Oh, I was. I'm trying to not say the 5 things that.
I mean, you can, but like.
But I had a list, so there's that.
We both did.
So I had the list that, you know, I prayed and asked God for. But in the relationship, I'd say I was looking for the fruits of the Spirit. And then on a more like on a deeper level, I was more so intrigued about your responses and how you would act in hard things, in hard conversations, and in hard topics.
You haven't told me that.
What?
You just haven't told me that.
Yeah. That's when I really leaned in, and I was like really paying attention because, you know, we like hit it off, and we have so many things in common, you know, in our lives. Remember we used to say that all the time, and just how we grew up. We were both pastors' kids. We're both into music. We both sing. We both lead worship. There's so many similarities and differences too, which is funny, but
yeah.
But we complement each other really well. I think we were kind of like made for each other. So the happy moments were like
really awesome.
Were awesome, and I didn't need to hyperanalyze those things.
Yeah.
It was the moments of suffering and the moments where, like, honestly, I was able to see what you would give up, which at the time was moving to New York, which was huge. Moving to New York, abandoning all your plans, going to a church that you weren't comfortable with, because that's a thing too. Those are like all qualities that, like, I was like, yep, I'm paying attention. I'm leaning in here, listening to your responses. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So then talk about what were the list of the 5 things you had, and why would you advise a young guy who was in your shoes at that time, like a young guy looking for a wife, like what things you looked for and why? You know, because we just discussed that the main thing for women is to look beyond the spiritual disciplines and look for the fruit of the Spirit and submission to the Spirit.
Right. Yes.
That is all of what we just said summarized.
Yeah, we could have just said that.
Look beyond the disciplines into the fruit of the Spirit and the submission to it.
That's good. Okay, so the things I looked for, well, I'll just say my list, but it was to love God with all of her heart, soul, and strength. And then it was super family oriented, loves her family, wants to have a family, loves pouring into family. Because you'd be surprised, people out there that want nothing to do with their family. And I really wanted someone who prioritized family. And then it was someone who had a heart for ministry, someone who understood this whole idea of like having a calling from God and you need to do it. This whole idea of listening to the Spirit of God and you need to obey no matter what. So like having that understanding of like sacrifice and ministry was really important to me. And then someone who was Nurturing, someone who could take care of, and that was the word I had for the fourth one was just nurturing. And then the fifth one was attractive because it matters.
It does. Don't let anyone tell you that it doesn't.
I always say that it's the last one. Notice it's the last one, but it's there. Made the top 5 list. Yeah, I think the reason why I chose those, and the reason why I think it's a good idea to choose those qualities, is obviously you want your spouse to love the Lord with all of their heart, right? Like that's a given. And if it's not for you, I encourage you to prioritize that probably in your life, because if that's not something you want in your spouse, you probably don't love the Lord, and I encourage you to have a relationship with Him. And then I think the family one is an interesting one, in that I think in life we are so career driven, especially in this day and age, especially guys. We're so goal driven, and we have like this drive. We talked a little bit about it in past episodes, but like this, sometimes our drive for success and drive for like our careers and like wealth even is like goes against this idea of biblical success. And like worldly success is like those things that I just mentioned: career driven stuff, goal driven stuff, wealth, money. That's worldly success. Biblical success looks like discipleship, and it looks like I heard this preacher say this one time at Liberty, where he was like, biblical success looks like gray hair surrounded by a bunch of children. And like that's biblical. When you look at the Bible and what the goal is in life for most of the characters that are in there, it's that. And it's a life of discipleship. If you're single, in your singleness, you want to be building disciples. If you have a family and you have children, you should be investing in those kids, making them, in love with Jesus, and carry that to the next generation. And I think that's an important quality to look for in a wife, because that is your success, I think, in this life, is making disciples. And what better way to make disciples than have kids of your own? You know what I'm saying?
Than to make disciples.
Literally, make them in the oven. But yeah, like that's really important, I would say. I could keep going, but
yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, okay. So I was listening to a podcast that honestly really was the most. I listened to 1,000 dating and marriage podcasts, which honestly I encourage that, like the marriage ones too. Even like those were really, obviously you have to listen to the ones that are more PG, because some of them are for like when you're married. But I listened to so many dating and marriage podcasts before we got married, or before we started dating. So I felt like I was like more equipped. But one of the ones was talking about 1 Timothy 3, like the qualifications of overseers and deacons and stuff like that. And it was really, really great qualifications for a husband. And it like the passage says, the saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to the office of overseer, he desires a noble task. Therefore, an overseer must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not a drunkard, not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. He must manage his household well with all dignity, keeping his children submissive. For if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he care for his church? Anyways, so it talks about a bunch of things, and obviously it's referring to people who like to someone who's already married to one person, things like that. So if you take that out and you just look at like the character qualities, it's really, really good. And one of the lists of things that this person in this podcast was saying, it was the porch podcast. It was really good. It was committed to the local church, committed to the covenant of marriage. So that's married to one. So just like the value, if you strip it down, committed to the covenant of marriage. So is like someone who knows and understands that there's no option. Marriage is forever.
Right.
Humility. That humility, the way they worded it was humility would mark his life. I love that, like the mark of a Christian, humility. Faithful reputation. So this one was like the word said respectable. And a tender heart, patient, steady. And it just went on and on and on. And it was really, really good. But those were like, that list was largely out of Timothy. 1 Timothy 3 was like the qualifications of a leader in a church. And they weren't really like, they were more so just like, fruits of the Spirit, if you really narrow it down. Self-controlled, gentle, patient, all the things.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's funny that we're making this correlation between pastors and just husbands and fathers in their homes. And one of the qualifications is that he would manage his family and household well. That's like the Bible literally puts it right in there. Like if he got the family thing going, he can do it for the church. Which it speaks a lot. You should be in a certain level looking for, I'll be careful when I say this, but pastoral qualities in someone who wants to shepherd and take care of and disciple. I think that because newsflash, we're all leaders, and guys especially, of their homes. And I think in the same way that a pastor leads his congregation, husbands should lead their families.
So we talked about what leadership out of marriage or should look like. So in dating, we talked about like example is the primary. What does it look like in marriage?
Yeah. So in marriage, it's completely different, right? Where in dating, you're just dating. And I like saying just dating to remind everyone that the goal is marriage. And that like dating, we don't find dating in the Bible. Like I said, there's only those 3 relationships. And so you're just dating. So you're just kind of like watching and you're observing the fruits of the Spirit, making sure those qualities are there, asking questions, and certainly praying as you would any other believer. But in marriage, it obviously now completely changes. Where like
so leadership shifts to
right.
What? So
for me as a husband, now that we're married, like I feel like it's a responsibility of mine to make sure that we're praying as like a family, and it's a responsibility of mine to make sure that we're like reading the Bible, and kind of like more so leading her, in the most like I think practical way, making decisions with her, right? And I'm not like we were just watching a podcast where it was like not dominating, right? Like I'm not dominating, but I'm leading. And leading looks like serving each other. And the Bible actually says for wives and husbands to submit to one another. So me leading her looks like submitting to her, which is like maybe people haven't heard that in a while, but it's in the Bible that husbands are to submit to their wives too. We submit to each other.
Yeah, there's only been one time where you made a decision that I was not down with.
Yeah,
only one time ever.
Yeah, there's really only been. Yeah, and I think.
And there will be more.
Yeah, but we were watching some other podcasts as well, where they were kind of there as a couple that was on it was talking about how there was like a few major moments in their life where like he had to step in and make a call, and then where like that literal example of like leading and the wife submitting came really into play. And I think that's good to know that we've had one So that means I'm not dominating, which is good, which is not what I want to do.
Well, and it very much worked out with very much the right move. And it was very much the right move.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, so like in marriage, all the things. It's all the things that you would want to do, that you would want to be doing as a dating couple. It now comes into play, which is a whole nother thing, which is a whole nother podcast, really. But, yeah.
Yep. So, like, what kind of things would you take initiative on in dating, and what kind of things would you take initiative on in marriage?
Oh, that's really good. That's a really good question.
I have some good questions now.
So okay, let's see.
As a boyfriend.
Right. What other things that you should be taking initiative on?
Yeah, and then as a husband.
I think the best way to get to know someone and observe someone is through conversation. So I think as guys, initiate conversation. That may sound like, oh boy, here we go. Or like, oh my goodness, that's so ridiculous. For some of you, because I was sort of in that boat where I was extremely not talkative.
I actually didn't think we would.
There was a
fit
moment
for each other. I literally, one of my friends talked me down from ending the relationship because I really was so, it was so hard to like.
Just talk with me.
Just talk with you.
Yeah, because I wasn't the best at this, I will admit. I learned this. Actually, I learned this in engagement, I think. But, you out there don't need to wait that long. And I think,
now,
looking back, it makes so much sense, right? Like, why would I want to be in a relationship with somebody forever and not be a talkative person? Like, how did I think that would work? You know? I always like to say, in the same way that in Christianity, there's no room for shyness. You can't be like a shy person. You can't take that on as an identity, because the Great Commission is like so essential to our faith. Because if you really truly believed that you were being saved from, eternal separation from God, then your natural reaction should be to share, and it needs to be to share the news. Like, you're missing half or more than half. I would say like the whole point. The whole point is to share it, right? So you can't be shy. There's no room for shyness in Christianity, which is a little hard. But if you, and it's a little, maybe it comes off as a little rough, but if you really think about it, take a second, do your own study, you'll see that that's true. You really just can't be a shy person as a Christian. You can be an introverted person. I'm introverted. I'm very introverted. Mm-hmm. But so in that same way, in marriage, there's like no room for this quiet. I'm not emotional. I'm not talkative. I don't like conversation. Like, you're gonna have a terrible marriage. If you don't want to talk, then don't have relationship with people. And it took me a while, really long time, to be able to say that. I would have never said that, even just
a couple of years ago.
Even just like a year and a half ago. It took me like my entire life up to now. I'm 26, so for some reason it took me that long, because I'm a very introverted person. I just am. I don't know where it came from. I am.
So what else should you take initiative on in dating?
Yeah. So if you're not already, you should be, as the guy, certainly showing sort of that fruit of leadership to that girlfriend, that you can initiate conversation. That's the one way you can show that.
Especially those hard conversations, those off the bat, like conversations on what are important things you have to agree on in marriage, like convictions on marriage, money, all those things.
What else?
Mm-hmm. One more maybe for dating, and then you give a couple for marriage.
Let me think. Because if the goal of dating is to get to know someone and observe.
I think initiate the conversation towards marriage, or like the steps towards marriage.
Oh, right. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I agree with you. You should be so, but it still falls into initiating conversation, which is funny because I think that is probably the main thing. Because remember, the whole point of dating is just to get to know each other. That's the purpose. So I think you should be initiating conversation in general, but certainly you should be the one bringing up and wanting to talk about marriage. An end
goal. Yeah.
An end goal being marriage. Yeah, it should be marriage, and there should be a very specific end goal for you guys as a couple. For us, it was to move to New York and be married, and yeah, that was like our plan. And there should be like a plan, and yeah, that's what I would say. You should have a plan, and marriage should be in that plan. And yeah.
And what about one or two things you should be initiating in marriage?
In marriage, you should be certainly. I think all the things we already talked about. Well, besides
the end goal.
The end goal thing
being marriage. Yeah.
I think here's how it translates. The first part, you should always be still getting to know your spouse in the same way that you were getting to know them early. So like I'm constantly making sure that you know that I love you more and more and more every single day, and I'm like I try my best, to do that. So like and it's also like I'm sure really fun for you as a girl too, and I'm probably sure all other girls love to revisit that beginning phase because it just feels very tender to them, and it's like, like still going on dates, like, you're still my girlfriend, kind of thing. So there's, but there's that aspect of like constantly getting to know your wife and your spouse, constantly pursuing your wife. And then how the end goal, right? The end goal being marriage translates in marriage now is where are we going? Right? Like, I think
the vision for your family.
The vision for your marriage and for your life. Yeah, because dating, it's like in a lot of ways you're trying to see if this woman can like jump on this ship with you, and in the same way you
run the race with you.
Yeah. Maybe not ship is not a good example because you weren't joining my life, and we were making a new life together. So it's probably like a more so analogy of like we're jumping into one ship kind of thing. But one ship.
One ship.
Okay. So it's like kind of like seeing like if you guys can jump on board with each other, and then now in marriage, it's like, okay, where are we going? Because like you got on this ride, now it's like, where is it going? Yeah, I think if you can't articulate it and if you can't say it, then it doesn't exist. So like our goal for our marriage in our life this year was to be obedient, confident, and more disciplined versions
of who we already know.
God has made us to be. Yeah. That's our vision. And we were able to articulate it, and I think the husband is supposed to initiate that. Like I said, I think a lot of what being a husband is constantly pursuing it and initiating. So yeah,
in all the ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like for women, some of the things that are important in dating, I think we should very, very much be praying, like on our own about it, on our own for the relationship, And then my mom has this book that I have now. I took from her. It was The Power of a Praying Wife, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the same for marriage. I think that one of my biggest roles is prayer for you, prayer for us,
right?
All the things. And then I also think it's like intentional helpfulness, like intentional serving, not just in the ways that like I think are best or that I am best at. I think it's I think a part of it too is noticing what is needed, what is most important, So I think like, in our situation, like, yes, it's obviously like doing things around here but it also like helping you brainstorm with your music and things like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That would be how I would articulate.
Yeah.
That. What else do you think for a woman?
For a woman, I think constantly nurturing and taking care of. I think a good wife invests in her husband, right? So like you invest time into him and you believe in him. I think like guys just need someone to believe in them. Someone to think that sounds cheesy, but they're like a superhero, you know? Like, I think that's what all guys really, really want. They want someone to like know that no matter what mistake they make, like they're going to believe in them. Like, and they're going to support them. And they're going to make them better and flourish and like just believe in them. I think any guys out there would probably resonate with what I'm saying. Yeah. But and it may come across as like cheesy, or just too basic, but it's true.
It comes down to respect.
Yes, I think that's what it is. I think it's because we all know love and respect, right? Like men want respect, women want love, and certainly they're interchangeable. But that's true, respect and love. Mm-hmm. But I think where the respect comes in is that it's like you respect your heroes in life. You respect people that you truly believe in and that you want to see succeed. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason why guys want respect from their wives is because they want to know that they truly believe in them, that they truly trust them, and that that they believe that, that they can be who God has called them to be. I think that's yeah.
And all of that like especially unlocks like when you're married, when you're doing the thing together, when you're like living your life together,
right?
And so all these things that feel like they can't do this, can't do that in dating, it like people tell you, oh my gosh, like it's better, like it's so worth it, in marriage. It actually really, really is. Even just from the lens of like purity, we literally, when we got married and we had like took communion, we know the moment where we became a 3-chord really cool. strand. Like we know that the moment that it happened. And it was craziest feeling ever. Like the cool, like during communion, it was like the coolest. It was the best part of our wedding.
Yeah. We highly recommend you to do communion at your wedding or any moment that is for God. Like put something in that ceremony that's just exclusively for God. Yeah. Because we didn't have a plan. Like we actually didn't have like because like when we were rehearsing, we did sort of have a plan. We were like, okay, and then you guys are gonna go over here, take communion, boom. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then it like came down, and then we walked over, and it was like, it was like, what do? We just like break the bread. But there was something so organic about that moment for us, where because we had music come in, so music was playing, and people were just watching us, with our backs to them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like it was crazy. It was like the presence of God, like, because you're nervous on your wedding day.
Yeah.
You're just gonna be nervous. That's the way I was. I didn't really have time to be that emotional. I was just nervous.
Yeah, me too. I didn't really cry that much.
Yeah, like I think it's emotional, but you're just also kind of nervous because it's a big moment. So like, but when that happened with the communion,
it was crazy.
It was wild.
I'd always wondered when God sealed it. In marriage, like in the process of being married, I've always wondered what God considered to be the moment.
Right.
And that was it for us for sure. Yeah. Like that was when he was like sealed. And so the cool thing about that was knowing that moment. It was so cool. Like once we were married, to literally feel that conviction from what was sin lift.
Yeah.
that was really cool. And honestly, like that goes for like all the things that like you're not supposed to do yet when you're dating, and then once you get married, you know, and then you're called to do those things. It's just so cool the way God all of a sudden deems that worship, and deems that honorable, and deems it like pure. That was really cool. Like feeling so cool. That feeling, like just not be there was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. When you do things right, it's just so awesome. So yeah, if you're looking for someone to marry, like waiting for marriage is so worth it. Including God in this process is like amazing. Mm-hmm. And for us, it was that communion moment. For whatever reason, it was the presence of God was so heavy. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was insane.
We were because I split the bread. The bread was like dry as a rock.
So it was like cracked
because it was like sitting in 90 degrees already.
And someone poured us 2 cups, but you're supposed to drink from the one. And there was one just sitting there, and it was just kind of like it was kind of a little bit of a mess in its own way. But then it was just like.
No, yeah,
everything just got quiet. It felt like it was just like
it was crazy. It was God. God came. It was like God was like stepped down, literally like walked down from the sky and like was on the other end of that table with us. And we like we're both just bawling our eyes out. Yeah. So we just decided to pray. Yeah. So like I forgot that.
I don't even remember what we said.
There's a specific like passage in the Bible that you're supposed to read. You know, like, and then he like, this is my body, and he took
do this in remembrance of me. We didn't do that.
None of that. We just like
we just prayed.
The presence of God was just he was meeting us there, and so we just prayed, and it was beautiful.
I think that it was the biggest reminder of why it was so good to like do things right in all the ways, because that was the moment that we were released to be married.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like where we were just in the sight of God, one.
Yeah.
You know, and it was so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can imagine that moment will be different for every couple, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so last question, then I'll answer it too, and then we'll like wrap it up.
Okay.
But why is it so important to be like equally yoked? Like what is the importance? And you can share it from your perspective, and then I'll share it from a wife's perspective.
Yeah. I'll explain the yoked things just because some people still don't know.
Yeah, and you know, we're speaking to people who are, you know, maybe in relationships where they like someone they're dating is kind of, I go to church and you know, God is great, but not really living for the Lord, and not really, you know, an active follower of Christ.
My personal conviction is that you can still be dating a Christian. You could be dating a believer and still be unequally yoked. There's nothing in Scripture that says they need to be a Christian, a follower of Christ. Obviously, you would want that. That's bare minimum, right? That's baseline. That's like...
It is baseline, yes.
If they're not following Christ, why would you want to bind yourself to that person? Like, why would you want to do that? So a follower of Christ is not the standard for the topic of being yoked together. And I said I would explain the yoke, because there's still some people who don't know, but you know, the yoke was a device that connected oxen together, and they would plow. Yeah, they would plow together. And it prevented them from going in 2 different directions, and they would actually like force each other and go into line together. So the yoke kind of brings them together, mm-hmm. and then they like go in down one direction. So when it's saying that you're unequally yoked, it means that you're going in 2 different directions.
Well, and if the one was stronger than the other, the stronger one would kill the weaker one.
Yes, and that I forget, where did we learn that from?
I don't know.
I think Pastor David, right?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It would kill. Yeah. Like if 2 oxen, one are pulling a plow, and one is stronger and one is weaker. The weaker one will be so tired trying to keep up with the stronger one that it'll literally just die. Like it would die.
Yeah, it would start to get dragged, and like something about the yoke, the way it was designed, would somehow cut into the skin. I don't know. That being a thing.
I don't know. It would just.
it was detrimental to one. If like, which is why it was important for each
to be
oxen to be
of the same strength.
Yeah, and of the same size and stature and everything. They had to be almost identical so that they could handle each other. So that's what it means to be yoked. So the question at hand is, what direction are you going? That's the question at hand, not are you a believer? That's, like I said, that's bare minimum. So like, I personally believe I was unequally yoked at one point in a relationship to a believer, but we were going different directions. And that's what you need to.
And at different paces.
Yes. Yeah. Different paces too. Like that whole topic about the bull being stronger than one, and not to say that, better or any regard, but yeah, I think that's the importance. It's where are you going? Where are you going in life? And some of you out there, unfortunately, don't even know where you're going. So you're just out here like walking, and then you want to get bound to someone, and like maybe that person knows where you're going, knows where they're going. You don't know where you're going. And then all of a sudden, halfway down the line, you're like, oh no, I'm going over here. And
when you're engaged or something.
Yeah. So so maybe that's one thing that maybe is a takeaway for some of you, where it's like, you need to learn you first.
Yeah.
Where are you going? And remember what I said before, if you can't articulate it, can't say it, then it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So if you can't like say within like at least 3 sentences what and where your life is and where it's going, don't get into a relationship. I'm just giving you honest, like,
Yeah.
But at the same, yeah.
Why else is it so important to be equally yoked?
Directionality, right? That's what I just said. You have if you're going down different directions, that's really important. I think another thing, let me think.
From the perspective of a husband.
I was thinking about that analogy about the stronger bull and the weaker bull, and how the stronger bull would actually kill the younger bull in that yoke. I want to be weary, because I was thinking, oh yeah, maybe like, different walks, right? Different levels in your faith, which I think is a little bit of a dangerous level of thinking. It could be for some people. Some people that they just need to hear that. Like that person's not spiritually ready to be your spouse. Like some of you, need to hear that. But then there's some of you who are like nitpicking. This
goes back to the disciplines thing.
Yeah, where it's like you're looking for the type A personality when, it's like that's not the goal. The goal is to be Christ-like. And showing fruits of the Spirit. So I guess that second thing that I'm trying to say that is why being equally yoked is really important is twofold, in that you don't want to be like hyper fixated on whether or not they're like just as strong in their faith as you, but then you also like kind of want that at the same time. You kind of want somebody who
you don't want to be hindered by worrying about where they're at.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
You don't want to be like, man, they have a lot of growing to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, and there's room for growth. There was room for growth in both of us that we both saw, that only just recently in the past like year and a half
have been
married,
really sanctified.
We've seen the growth in each other, and we're like, oh yeah, that thing that I was like not happy with in you is now fixed.
Yeah.
1.5 years.
I think of one
marriage.
major thing for each of us that was like ripped out of us.
Yeah. So like there's room for that too. Like your spouse can grow. But it's
Well, and here's the thing. So I'm going to speak to the women. This is just like the most important thing in the world, but one of the reasons that I was willing to marry him with like this one thing in his life that I would still this one belief in his life that I would still deem a stronghold in the way that like there was one for me. I wasn't worried about it because I knew he heard the voice of God. I knew that he listened to the voice of God. So what that meant was because eventually I tried to talk him out of this stuff, before, and it just wasn't working because that's not my role. That's the advocate's role, right? And so I knew that the Lord would deal with whatever he felt was necessary to deal with because he listened to the Lord. So if you're trying to date someone and there's these big major things that you're really worried about, you should be worried if he already really just doesn't have a prayer life. If he already really just doesn't listen to the Lord. But it's so important because I hear of these stories of girls getting married to these guys, and then they just feel stuck because where they feel God is asking them to go, that their husband doesn't have that intimate relationship with the Lord, so he's not hearing the same thing. And if you're supposed to submit to your husband, you're submitting to someone who isn't being steered by the Spirit of God.
Right.
Because if your husband is not submitting to Christ, then have fun submitting to him.
Yeah.
And you have to. It doesn't say if he is submitted to the Lord or you submit. It doesn't say that at all. And actually, you're still supposed to submit even to a non-believing husband. So that, and then I'm not there, but in 1 Peter 3, it says, stand by. Yes. Likewise, wives, be subject to your own husbands. So even if some do not obey the word, they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives, when they see your pure and respectful conduct. So anyways, it's saying you're not, it doesn't matter how he's acting, you still have to. So why would you want to get married to someone who doesn't have a clearer ear for the voice of God than you?
Yeah.
My brother Zane always used to tell me, Mallory, find somebody stronger than you spiritually. And that's for the woman, because in Ephesians, it also says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her so that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her with the washing of water with the word. And so if that's his job, he probably should be strong as or stronger. So even if he, a good man no one is truly good, And so when girls are like, oh yeah, he's just really awesome. He checks all the boxes. He's just a good guy. I'm like, is he though? Because no one is truly good. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Why call me good? Only the Father is good. Remember Jesus said that.
Yeah. And so it's just it's incredibly unwise. If you want to obey the Lord in your most important, calling, there's the Great Commission, but you're the most important relationship in your life, according to God. If you want to honor him in that and be a wife who is submissive, why would you make that harder on yourself by marrying someone who just thinks that God's just chill or whatever? It's church is right. Cool.
So I think is it safe to say that this is different for men and women?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Where you're saying that equal to or above.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, I don't want to say I'm a little more relaxed or liberal in that approach, where it's if the woman can grow, not there with you. I don't want to say that, but I'm saying there's qualities that will always be needed to grow in your spouse and in when. So
how would you articulate that? I agree, because you're supposed to be a leader.
Yeah,
it's Christ, you, me.
Yeah, I think, can she be led? Is she teachable?
And sincerity.
And sincerity. And whereas in the woman is he teachable? And I think humility plays huge into that. But it's does he hear the voice of God?
Mm-hmm.
Can he lead his own
Can
life?
he submit to the Spirit? Remember, that's what I was saying in the purity thing.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Does he have deep convictions that stem from him hearing the voice of God and having a relationship with God, not stemming from type A personality, not stemming from being really, really disciplined and reading the Bible.
Or the culture of Christianity.
Or church Chad, right? Is he in love with Jesus? That's what you need. Yeah. But, you know, like for guys, certainly true. This is the same. Is she in love with Jesus?
That would be
I think that solves everything.
Because like, it looks different in men and women.
Yeah. Because we're made different. So
and we have different responsibilities, different callings.
Yeah. And the way God interacts with men and women is different. And I think in the end, it's like, do they love the Lord? Is that the number one thing in their life? Are they obsessed about it? Does it spew out of them? Do they just talk about it? Does it invade every area of their life? Mm-hmm. That's the most important thing. Everything else is like, God will take care of it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you can't confidently say that they're just madly in love with God and that they can hear the voice of God and they have a working relationship with Him, take a second. Just take a second, you know?
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps it up. Just a good random conversation.
I guess we didn't know what specifically even the title of this podcast would be, but
I think we could do a part 2.
Yeah, we probably could, but I think it's definitely like what qualities to look for is what we ended up talking about, like what to look for in a future spouse, essentially.
Yep. Well. Yep.
Yep.
Test it against the word.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not perfect, and we're still really young. Yeah, and we still got a whole lot of life to live, a whole lot of stuff to go through, but I think a lot of the principles that we're trying to convey is straight out of the Bible, straight out of the Word. And like Mallory said, test it against the Word.
Yep. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.